Okay, so yeah, thank you very much for this short-term invitation because I always or I long-term plan to do this talk on values because I think it's relevant, but it's very difficult and I never had the chance to do it. And now jumping in, and this is a really nice idea, so nice opportunity. So, but first I have to start with some a little bit gruesome facts. Some of you may know that I'm kind of on my last journey. I'm going to die. So I got my diagnosis for cancer in my esophagus, just above the stomach. And I have metastases all over the place in my lungs and bones. And yeah, so in the last couple of weeks, I had a seizure. I fell on my head and broke my skull in several places. They found a metastasis in my brain and they operated on it. Here we go.
Oh my God.
This big scar. So it was about the size of a small breakfast egg. And yeah, now it's just kind of interesting because it seems that a lot of crap was cut out. So I have a very strong sense of clarity, of sharpness of the mind, and I gained some very interesting insights. So, and I always was interesting in how we learn, how we think, how we recognize our environment. And now I'm in a perfect situation to study that on myself. So actually, it's kind of interesting. And also, I mean, I got my diagnosis 3 years ago, and they said, okay, get your act together half a year and then should be fine. And that is 3 years ago. So I'm holding on for a long time. And this is, yeah, kind of strange. So tomorrow I will have my chemo number 28, which is quite a lot every 3 weeks. And chemos are kind of aging and fast forward. So I'm old, I'm getting old, my body gets old. The chemo affects all the cells in the body, and the ones who are most active, they are affected most, and that means that also the heart at some point will get affected. But mostly, of course, the cancer. And the good point is, well, good point, I don't know. I smoke a lot of marijuana or cannabis, and this seems to be helping a lot with the modern chemistry and pharmaceutically. It seems that the amplify itself, the cancer itself grew smaller. The metastases are almost gone. I mean, they're not gone, but they're so small you can't see them anymore. It is amazing, kind of amazing. And I even imagine that my brain grows back. not just that there will be a hole, that there will be new connections and new tissue and all this stuff. So, but we will see. So I think it's a very interesting case, and I'm hoping to donate my data to science, and I don't know, maybe make it an interesting case. So, if you have anybody to face some kind of things like this, tell them that they should read up on cancer and cannabis. Maybe they find it interesting. So, as I see it, cannabis was long, I don't know, deviled by society for racist reasons. But I think it's an herb which holds life together, which I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting. There are studies, there are pointers, there are hints, and I started the wiki where I collect all these things, and I think it's interesting. So cannabis, I think, is responsible for us having computers. Well, we know Smalltalk 80 in California in the 70s. We got internet, and now the cure for cancer. I think that's pretty good outcome for this little herb. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So completely off topic, but that's why I would like to ask you if the bandwidth is doing well and the network is holding up. Could you just turn up your cameras and that I can get like a ASUC feeling of people making weird faces and ask strange questions and stuff? That would be cool.
I think it is holding up, and we're all here. And,
Okay, cool. Okay, so now I can
thanks for sharing that info, by the way, Christian. I mean, obviously, we all wish you well, and hopefully you can contribute many, many more ideas, even, cannabis included. Excellent.
Yeah. So, and actually, I'm still fit. I'm amazingly fit, and it's actually kind of interesting and fun to die when you're fit. It's a lot less fun probably when you're not fit and don't smoke so much anymore. So it's actually not so bad. So, and this has nothing to do with you, but everybody will face it at some point, and I can recommend it. So let's see if I can share my screen. Entire screen. Does it work recursively? Okay, yeah, that didn't work.
No, I think it's sharing. Yeah.
There's something.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got the first part. So yeah, I'm very open about this, so I'd like to talk about this. I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings or something like that, but that's not my problem. Okay, yeah, interesting stuff. So now the challenge for today is, I don't have any special feature or project or something or plan to tell you about, but I want to give you an idea how a system where you use values looks like, how it feels like, how you work with it. So if you want to see the details, follow the link in the announcement. There is all the technical details. I won't get into that too much unless there are questions, of course, which are welcome. So first, values. They are not special at all. They're just regular objects. That means the class value is a subclass of object. And there's nothing special a value has which a normal object doesn't have. So there's just nothing special about it. And it follows the syntax of Smalltalk. You can use all the tools in the image. Everything is just fine and works with values, just with objects, just everything. So the second principle, which some people might not like, the variable access to the instance variables of such objects is always lazy, always. So there's always a check if it's nil, and if yes, then there will be a default coming back. Otherwise, of course, the content. So now I want to show you the image, a couple of interesting values. So how I use values. Let's see if that works. So now, first we can have a look of what values I have. So these are all the value classes grouped by namespaces. So we can just scroll through this a little bit, and it's on video, so later you can study that a bit better. So here, for example, Bloomberg, that's a data provider. And I model, of course, the requests and the responses. That's a very normal thing, I guess. There is some, more Bloomberg. Another provider with XML. Another, graphics. Graphics, we'll come to that. Nothing interesting. Oh, transform, yeah, my Smalltalk transform stuff. Project, everybody has a project manager. Of course, I have my project as values. And more graphics. Some customer stuff. Fonts, yeah, the font stuff. Lots of font stuff. And more responses and requests. This time it's a GraphQL interface. Okay, so that's about it. So lots of little classes. So the first class, interesting, is an answered request. So here we have an answered request class. And a value is specified by a by a little definition of the slots of the instance variables, where just differentiate between the uses of the variables. So either it's constant, that means it cannot be changed, it will be given at creation time. Yeah, these guys are all constant, so they have to be provided, otherwise this value is not valid at all. And it's very simple. So we have a request and we have the corresponding response to it. That means in my systems, I construct this request and then I will send it off and wait for the response. And then I will create this value, which covers the request and the response. Very simple. So we have a simple example like this. Oh, no, we have better examples. No, not even that. This one is a better one. So here we have, oh yeah, sorry, with my illness and the thing, my brain is also affected. My short-term memory is affected and my, I don't know, sense of following threads of conversation. So it's interesting to program without short-term memory, really interesting. So I was quite surprised that I couldn't find things. And then I was even more surprised when I found them, and I was very delighted how nice they were. So anyway, so we have, where was I? So we have a normal request specification, some test instances. No, we have examples. Example is better. So a very simple example is like this. This is a Bloomberg request. So you give it a symbol, IBM. We want the last value of the day and starting at a certain date. So a bit more complex is an example where you have options and defaults. So this is one thing which makes your system simple, is by hiding options or defaults by modeling the defaults. So this one is a full example where all the defaults are set by something, but usually it's just obsolete and you don't need to have it. And you just leave it alone. Okay, so usually stuff like that looks like this. So, but now what you have, when you have the request and the response, anytime I send out a request and I gather the response, I will save that value as a method, of course. So I get all my test instances. Lots. So wonderful to harvest stuff. So here we have the request. And here we have the response. So the response is usually completely dumb. It's just a time series of simple data points. But it's very important, of course, in my domain. So that's what you can do with values, because values basically are able to print themselves in a way that you can recreate them. So that means this answered request is just sitting here as text. And if you inspect it, then of course you get the answered request. And if you send it as source, well, you get it back as source, as string, and back and forth. So that's how values are used. So therefore, you can very easily generate methods. Of course, every value can add itself as a method to some class, to their own class, usually as an example. So that's a nice thing. And of course, you always have it at a glance to see what's actually going on here. Well, okay. So a very important value for me. and handy to have it all recorded. Okay, so that's it. Now let's have a look at what else did I want to see. Graphics, yeah. So the second big domain I use with values is graphics. So graphics has to be shown properly. So I do charts, as some people know. So graphics is here. This is my current project. These kind of charts. And so you can just have it open. Very simple chart. Okay, we can inspect it. Okay, now we can get the graphics out of it. There we go. Graphics. So here we have graphics, and then we have a little inspector for that. So they can go through the values. These are all values. One big value. And showing a little bit what the value is about. And these values are always context independent. So you can just spawn the value, spawn it, do something else. So very nice, good for tooling. And you can look at things, what font, what style, everything is good. So, and of course, no, we can do that later. So these are just values, one big value, right? It's a simple value. Well, it has mostly these compounds. It's groups of graphical primitives, more or less. Okay, but it's a value. So in the end, this all graphic is one value. You can save it as a method. You can save it as whatever, or display it. So there's another layer of
question.
Graphic. Yes, please. Questions. Please.
Can you redefine? Just, I guess, remind us what is your definition of value?
Sorry, I didn't get that. Additional event.
Just repeat. What is the definition of the word value?
Of the word value.
Yeah, well, you use value a lot, but
right.
what does it mean?
Value. Well, it's in functional programming. It's like an object which you cannot modify. So that means, yeah. How do you say that? It's a very primitive, simple object. It's
so for that graphics,
yes.
For that graphics object,
yes,
it's actually an object with many collections and instance variables.
Yes. Yes.
And each of those is another value, and none of those things can change. Is that correct?
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. So basically, it's
and how do you prevent that?
Well, because every object has a method to present itself on some graphics context. And then you can just put it in there. And of course, since I do PDF, it's, of course, I'm doing PDF as well. Can I say that? Yeah. No.
So every time you want to change the thing, you have to make a complete copy and change, and then fix it as a value.
Exactly. Very good. Very good. Yeah, very important. So, but an exact copy doesn't mean you have to go through the whole tree to copy things. You can just copy, for example, the whole grid or the line or something. And this is meaning just switching to pointer. So it doesn't mean much in terms of memory or time. It's actually very fast. So you pick parts of the objects, and every part of the object is context free. You can just pick it. You don't have to adjust pointers. You don't have to do anything. You just pick it, put it into another object, and you're done. So if, for example, you have a list of objects, just take another list of objects or rearrange them. You don't change much of the object at all.
So you never access a variable directly. It's always through a method.
Yes. Well, always the reading is through a lazy method. So it checks if there's anything in the slot at all. Or, yeah, and there's no setters at all. Maybe just one general remark was setters. I hate that most of the Smalltalks have tooling that generates setters. This is wrong. You should think twice about using a setter and then don't use it. Do something else. So make a copy of the object or something like that, because then you lose the context. You don't need to care about the context anymore. So in graphics, it's really nice. You can just stick the graphics elements together and create new graphics. It's kind of nice. So, but
you mentioned a couple times that you could make a method out of this.
Yes.
Is that like a serialization
Yes.
mechanism? So you can serialize it into something like a bit of code, and then evaluating it gives you an instance of the object that represents the same values.
Let's see what's happening. Self as method. Debug it. Let's see where we go. So we need a selector string, right? So that's a good thing. So we say it's an example graphic compound. Okay, it's not very interesting. But then we go here. So first the test is useful at all. So it's not empty. Yeah, okay, good, useful. Okay, name class, a dialog. Okay, we want class method name. Okay, that was a little chart. Okay. So it's not empty. Symbol, class responds to the symbol already. No, and then we just add a method in the protocol. Which protocol is that? Okay, and in the package of the class, and then if we get the message changed, then we execute it. Oh, it's already there, isn't it? Okay, let's see what's happening here. There should be chart method here. But there isn't. Why not? Help. Am I too stupid? Oh, here. There it is. Yeah. So it's a graphical compound with a compound, and there's a text style. Oh, that's actually a text with a text style and a string and a position. So that's all the graphic bullshit. And some lines, vertical lines, horizontal line, just vertical lines. So is that answering the question?
Yeah, exactly right. It reminds me of when you did your PDF output such that we had to, have a string that generates the PDF components, and that's what we did the reports on. So,
right.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Right. So just the graphics, and basically it's a big value of a lot of graphical atomic elements grouped together by some grouping things. So, okay, graphics, important. So now there's a different layer of graphics. So I did replace all the numbers by symbols and call it symbolic graphics. And this is rather interesting stuff. But I have to show it again, because otherwise you won't understand why this is even necessary. So let's look at some interesting other charts. I think this one is good. The fonts need to be loaded. So now it looks a little bit more decent. So we have, actually this one is better, I think. Oh yeah, this is a good one. So we have an interesting chart with these boxes. In charts, elements inside the graphic in the chart area is a really, really, really bad idea, because the chart can be anywhere. And if you place your design or base your design on the shape of the curve, it's a messy business. So I did some graphics which handles that by itself. So we can edit one of those guys, and then we can shift the scale a little bit. So let's have it up. So did you see? There's the box switched from top, because there was not enough space anymore, to the bottom of the line. And if you go a little bit further down, no, up. Switch down, I think. Ah, there we go. Anyway, that's a bit strange. So what happens is I define this chart with the boxes, and then I render it in the second step, and then I reason about the graphics rendered. That means I can measure where is the line and which rule I need to apply to place these boxes. Yeah, very interesting. And I think this is only possible with this kind of meta level, or the reification of doing graphics. Yeah, but of course, all this definition, all this specification of the behavior is a value again, of course. So can we see that? Yes, I think we can.
So Christian,
Yes.
am I to understand that what you have created is a constraint solver for the graphics? Or is it just hard-coded logic?
My hearing is also really bad. Sorry, could you please repeat?
Sorry. Is it, have you written a constraint solver for the graphics? Or is
no,
it just
but I would love
okay.
to. I would love to have one. Yes, I was always thinking of Casovari to plug that in, because all the variables are ready to plug into something. It's all symbolic, and it's all references. So it would be just perfect to have a nice constraint-based solver behind that. Yes, definitely. And then you could even use it for the UI for really dynamic graphics. Yes. Is that answering your question, or do you have one ready-made for me to use?
I wish.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, no, it's cool. It's cool. Yeah, so I was able to solve this, but I want to show you, what that there is also a value behind this. It's called the graphics definition. Yeah. So that looks like this. It also has groups, of course, group definitions, but then it has something like text line definitions, just instead of a text. So, and then it can be wrapped by sensitive definitions, which are actually things you can use interactively. So in this case, the title can be edited with a click, and then you can edit it. So otherwise, you have also translations, a very nice way of relating different elements to the edges of other elements and stuff like that. You have yeah, no, it's just one higher level than the graphics. So from the definition, the graphics will be rendered, and then the graphics objects, the graphics values, are used to reason about the position or the layout or whatever. Yeah, it's a bit abstract, but very, very powerful. And you have to invent interesting ways. It's actually similar to HTML for the structure and CSS for the appearance and the styling and all this stuff. But also I do the layout with it. Okay, so just to show it's not too good to study. So anyway, so these things are cool. And of course, values lend themselves wonderfully for tools, of course. Everything is in clear sight, and yeah, you have different classes, you have different behavior, everything is good. So let's go back to outline. Okay, so one of the things I love values for is configurations. So I have, of course, configurations. Everybody has configurations, but I really love them. So let's see some configurations. So we don't need that. We don't need that. Oh, what's going on? No. So, yeah. Okay. Now here we have my projects. So of course everybody has their projects organized somehow, and of course my projects are values. So here, for example, is the customer project, where you have everything related to the customer available. So I know the bundle where the project is stored, in which repository. I can generate the runtime from it. I can create the runtime. I can release the runtime. I can publish parcels. I can do everything. Let's browse the definition because it's nicer to syntax highlighting. So the good thing is I have everything in place. All the information needed, usually for values. You have strings, you have maybe dates, you have numbers, but everything is in one place. Of course, you may have defaults or stuff, but it's a perfect starting point for your next project or your next program, because you know already what's available, what's needed, and it's so easy to change and modify and do new instances of this. Okay, so configurations. So the next one would be transforms. Oh yeah, there we have something. It's actually gone. It's gone. Okay, we need to get a new one. Let's get it. So I was working on a transform project which should be able to transform Smalltalk code with namespaces into Smalltalk code without namespaces. Okay, this is wrong. Smalltalk transform. So here, the model is, of course, our values. So usually values build the model. You model some domain and you just take everything in the domain. Here the domain is, of course, Smalltalk code. So you have classes and class changes. You have methods which you need to describe. You have to describe or specify packages and projects and stuff like that. So, for example, a project change that will be it's a value defining all the transformations needed to transform a project. For example, one of the working transforms is for gemstone. And it's, of course, for PDF. And we have all the transformations. So that means these are methods holding values, describing transformation rules for Smalltalk code. So we have, for example, rewrite methods. So we have a rewrite rule, and we can apply this to a specific method. We can rewrites here. We can ignore methods. Of course, we can replace methods with a different code. We can. Well, that's about all what we can do. But in this way, I can describe the transformation between one code base into another by supplying new methods or applying some rules or replacing methods. Okay, very cool. And actually, these methods are not so big. There are not so many transformations needed for most of the packages. Here's only a couple of methods. And that should be it. So, but it's a specification, and it's in clear view. In one spot, you see everything involved. It's context-free. You don't need any other code, tool, or anything to understand this thing. And you can just copy it out of it and put it somewhere else, and it will work just fine if it's in the right place, of course. So this always kicks me to see a configuration in one place and start from there. It's very, very satisfying. So, and that's about it already, isn't it? Okay, the anti theme to this is, of course, a Windows spec in Windows. In VisualWorks, we can just have a look at it. It's beautiful. I mean, it's not beautiful. So here, it's actually they're doing nice things in the moment, but this Windows spec is just horrible. You have arrays with elements, and if you just format the whole thing, you will just be gobbled up. And I don't know how many hours of Smalltalk talent was used to manually format this weird specification. So if that would be values, you would have just the structure there in one view, and you would just see directly what's going on. So of course we don't want that. No. So much better. But this looks like a value. This is how I would format a value. So Windows spec, not good. So C structures. Oh yeah, this is an interesting thing. Here we go, C structures. So I was lately doing a lot of font stuff, and fonts are one of these things, well, it's basically C. You have C structures, and C structures are always values. I mean, what else can be in a C structure except for numbers and strings and stuff like that? So basically, it has to be able to convert to a value. So here we have a value. And so just for context, the G-sub table in an open type font describes substitutions of characters or glyphs for other glyphs. One of the features I needed for my text for a long time to find tabular glyphs, which align nicely vertically. And then I implemented this stuff, and it's kind of interesting. So, but the C structures are usually done for speed. So you usually hop into the structure, go through a couple of offsets, and find your numbers or your data, which you can use then. In object orientation, we of course want to parse the whole thing, convert everything into objects, connect them properly, and then have your object ready to mate. So no runtime overhead. Everything is prepared and ready to use. So one of the objects coming out of here is this. Okay, that's a very simple one. So I looked at and opened this for a reason. Here we have a better one. So, yeah, such a table has scripts. So it the font can be used for different scripts, of course. Here we have Latin, and there's a language system, and the system has features. Features are something like this, so you can modify the case or fractions, the ligatures, some other stuff. And this is the stuff I want, the tabular numbers. And you have lookups, which are kind of rules. And you have a lookup single one by delta rule, and lookup for ligature. And it's a rather complex, and you have a lot of interesting values, but basically you just write them off the specification. It's very simple as it is. And I mean, there's nothing else there than just a couple of values, a couple of numbers or stuff like that. But there is a different view on that. Let's see if we can get that. So of course it's a value. We can just inspect it. No, we can't. Why not? Okay, I'm getting confused here. Okay, so this and to the end. This will not work. Yeah. And inspect it. So now we have the thing as we would have read it from the font directly from the thing. And there's something we can see, I think. Badly prepared. No, there's. Okay, so maybe one little thing how to pass this thing. It's rather interesting too. So here I just have the bytes stored. I like that a lot. Put that in there. So now we do the contents. We do a byte read stream. That's a nice little tool I did. And it knows these things are in big endian. So fine. I have a nice byte stream. And then we just read the next version. And this is inside short. It's a 1, good. And then we read the next unsigned short, which is a 0. It's a minor version. And everything's good. And then the next short. And if you know this kind of specifications, it's just like that. You just write it down. Just, okay, the next short is this, the next short is that. Then we have a long, and then we have something, and this is an offset for something. And so you hobble through the structures, and on the way you create values. And then in the end, you stick them all together. So we finish that. Oh yeah, no, this was. Okay, but this should be, of course, the same thing. Yeah, so it's objectified or valuified C structure. And of course, it's so nice to see that all in clear view, more or less. Well, okay, so that was that. So C structures are really thankful jobs. But of course, you need to model the domain, which is a little bit involved here. But yeah, font technology is fascinating. Okay, so yeah, so that should be it. So maybe some final remarks. No values, of course, are databases. This is exactly the opposite. Just one bit in a database makes the whole thing, mutates the thing to a completely different stuff. Treeming, the same thing. UIs are not really useful. PDF almost doesn't have any values because there are so many backpointers and you are not able to create circles in values. So, and then there's a very interesting little old data structure, a dictionary from PostScript. And this is a dictionary which you can actually name. And the way how it is named is very interesting because you put the dictionary as a value into the dictionary itself by some kind of symbol. And the symbol will be the name of this dictionary. Cool. So this is also used in Gemstone, which they forgot their PostScript heritage, unfortunately, because these are basically very nice namespaces. So the interesting thing, or the most system-changing thing, is that values necessarily create interfaces. That means take my response, my request response value. So I have to model the whole domain for the request, and I have to model the whole domain for the answer. And I can construct the object, the value, only in the moment when I have all the information available at that moment. That means you have to restructure your code so that you have one spot where you have gather all the information together to be able to create this value. And therefore, you have an interface. That means you can use it from both sides. You can use the values to shoot at the interface and cause it to do whatever action is followed. Or you can use it from the other side for tests to generate the values and see if the expected responses come back. So very easy. Yeah, the interfaces. This will change the system. This will make it clear. It will create the boundaries for modules, for subsystems, for stuff like that. So my remote provider stuff is a good example for that. But also the graphics and this meta graphics or symbolic graphics. And also, of course, C interfaces and configurations, yeah, stuff like that. Specifications is all wonderful examples for this. Yeah, I looked at some statistics and I have about 10,000 object classes. And about a tenth of it is value classes. I was expecting to have more, but about 10%. So it's not all values. So you need the values, the full like interface, or the full facade for interfaces. But then they appear sporadically. So when you have any opportunity where I can make sure I only deal with values, I would make a value class. And this is like a shoot and forget. You just model it and then you forget about it because it's so simple, you have to think about it at all anymore. So there's some interesting limits I found on the way. When methods get too long, the Smalltalks all have some kind of limit how long a source method can be. They have limits how many literals can be in a method. And Visualworks even has a different limit for methods saved in stores. So methods which are just too long, you just cannot load anymore or compile. So for the language people, it will be interesting to study refactorings because all the parts are context independent. They can be nicely refactored. And there's even some group in HPI which use kind of values to inline it for speed. which you can do, of course, or might be able to do. So that's about it. So if you have questions, or yeah, sorry for this rather ad hoc setting, but yeah, please tell me what you think. So I can leave it alone. So I think the main point, and this is of course not so nice, is interfaces. I think these interfaces, the force to create interfaces will make systems simple. So,
would you tell me something more about this transformation stuff? That's interesting. And you always run this from Visualworks, I guess.
Yes, it's all Visualworks, but it's ported to all the other Smalltalks as well. I mean, not all of them, but so there are actually two parts of the value package. So one is the runtime, which is very simple. It's basically the values superclass. But then there are tools, which is basically just the matter of that you get this menu pick. So if you have a value class, then you can just kick off the generation of methods for this class. So there are a couple of methods generated. Yeah, so that's it. And this basic thing is ported to all the Smalltalks. That works fine. The tools I have in VA, I found somebody, Luis, who told me how to put a menu pick into the organizer, which is interesting. So I need people to tell me how to do this in Faro and Squeak and Quiz and stuff. And then the values are available. So, but it's, yeah, you have to play with it a little bit. It is the base for most of the stuff I do, and therefore this has to be ported. And I'll do this with transformation business. Where was it? Yeah. Oh, no, let's look at this way. Transform, yeah. Model. What did we want to say? Okay, we can see a gemstone, and there's these are the transformations for values. They look like this. So, for example, yeah, or the local specifications, you need to replace the literal binding paths. So that means this is this. Here, this is a literal binding, which references a class without the need to be loaded, to have it loaded. So it's a literal referencing a class name. And these things, of course, are special syntax not understood by Gemstone, Squeak, Faro, or anybody. So they have to be translated.
So, yes.
So this is done with a special rewrite rule, a simple thing. Yeah. Oh, and then I have some local changes. Oh yeah, lots of added methods, but nothing special. Mostly it has to do with order collection, order dictionary. An order dictionary is important for values because you want a dictionary where the order is preserved. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to have a value from it. And most of the stuff is to adapt the existing, or to make this order dictionary available. But it's not so much. I mean, it's manageable, and yeah, and it's specified. I really like the specification business. And again, it's all context-free, more or less. You can just have these class changes, for example, and if you have a similar method, then you can just copy it over and edit it, and then you're just fine. So here it deals with colors. Yeah, interesting point too. Okay, so then we have PostScript. This is simple. Yeah, so I'm a little bit of a specification fetishist, maybe. So does it answer the question, Stefan?
I would like to see the other parts where the transformation itself is happening.
Well, where is it happening? So gemstone, you can do something. Actions. There's a project writer. Okay. It should be in the comment, right? Okay, so you have a Smalltalk. And then you say, got me, terrible. So, okay, they need to be sent somewhere. Not useful. Okay. Right project. File. Oh, here we go. Yeah, here this things. So you can say gemstone 36. Write out, find out PDF talk. This is what you want, right? Okay. So you, oh God, what's happening? So the project is just this value. Let's couple together some name mapping. And then we have this value, which is something, a class. Oops. That should be a value, but it's not. Class, why? Oh, something, okay, something went wrong here. And why is that? Because the class is bogus. Oh, it's not a value. Oh, that's failed badly. So, yeah, basically you have this tree of transformations, starting with project, consisting of all the packages and the transformations applying to these packages. And it will just go through this tree and do the things necessary. That can be a little bit complicated. You need to do some re-sorting and remapping of things, but otherwise it's a very straightforward process, just running down a simple hierarchical tree. Very simple. I think it's very easy to follow, and especially because you have values all the way and you can inspect them so easily and you can find the structure and you see very clearly when something goes wrong. It's a difficult talk because, I mean, it's so hard to pinpoint this to a technical super feature, but it's working with it is always so pleasant, and yeah, it's very difficult to describe for me. Yeah.
Was it also ported to Faro, like the values?
Was it always for?
Ported to Faro? Or because Thurston did help you with the...
I think like 3 or 4 years ago. Yes, Faro was one of the first ones.
Yeah.
But Thorsten Bergmann also ported it, I think. I don't know if he uses it, but I will try.
He's online here now.
So. That.
Yes, you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, I ported the values part which is available on the GitHub.
Yeah.
Mostly because back then Christian wanted to publish the PDF talk stuff, which I never had the time to look into. So this was used a lot by the PDF talk. So I started with the port of the values, but actually I found it interesting to use also for some.
Yeah, I hope I can continue on that project more, because I think values are very important, very nice. But okay, there's one word of caution maybe for cross-dialect values. This, of course, only works when the value classes are exactly the same in both images, of course. But then it's very easy to send objects or send values over the wire somewhere.
Well, your transforms are values.
Yes, of course. Yeah, but okay, but I don't send the transforms over. I use the transforms to send other stuff. But in the end, it's all values. It's all strings in the end. So, so my vision is that everything outside of a Smalltalk image is a value in the end, somehow. Everything which comes through a wire or from a file or from something will be ending up being some numbers, some strings, or other similar simple stuff. And as soon as they enter the system, they will be transformed into values for me, because then I have an interface to this kind of technology or this kind of domain, and can construct tests and examples and everything I need. Yeah, but it's, yeah, values are a modeling tool for domain objects. Okay, that's I don't know what to say, but I love to hear questions. Are there any comments?
There are.
Yeah.
Oh, I have to switch off my sharing? No. How do I see that?
On the chat, there is a question if there are any plans to support Dolphin Smalltalk as well.
No, yeah, Dolphin would be cool. Yeah. So since I use only Smalltalk for all this stuff, there's nothing special, no syntax, no nothing. It is a no-brainer to do that with Dolphin as well, I think. And I should do that. Dolphin is really a nice Smalltalk. So where was I? Yeah, Zoom. Okay, there's some controls. Stop share. Okay, stop share. Okay, here we go. Yeah. Okay, here now the chat. Camera, yeah, okay.
A totally different question would be if you say that your short-term memory is now less, how do you see that affect the way you use a Smalltalk system? Do you see that? And because
yes, it's
programmers tend to have reasonably good short-term memory.
Yes.
Better than average people,
yes.
I guess.
Yes.
And that probably leads us to do things in a way that is sometimes difficult for other people to do. And yeah, you now have experience in there that hurts or helps.
It is like working with a Smalltalk image with a lot of windows open. It is very, very similar. So I'm getting confused very, very easily. Where was I working? What methods did I touch? What was I going to do? Very difficult. Unbelievable. And I was doing graphics and I was trying to whip something up and I just couldn't do it. I didn't remember how to do it. And then I finally got it right again. And then I was surprised how cool that worked. And then I found it. So actually Alzheimer's is probably good because you discover a lot of new things all the time. No, it's a joke. It's a short-term memory loss is not good for programming. Definitely not.
What kind of things should we learn from that?
Keep a lot of context in your mind. I was actually involved in a little bit of tagging in PDF, which is for how do you say, barrierefreiheit, for
accessibility.
Accessibility, exactly. So, and now I'm actually a patient of that, and I need this. So people have screen readers, and they are reliable. They need to rely on the structure of the document to get the right idea of what it's about. And now I can study it by myself. Cool. Yeah, interesting. And yeah, it's short-term memory is difficult because there's so much context you need to normally keep in your mind at the same time to make the right decisions. And if you just have to look up everything again and again and again, it's really, really very difficult. Yeah.
There's an interesting project that has been open sourced 2 or 3 weeks back. That is called Pinner for Faro. And the typical Smalltalker has a lot of windows open, lots of browsers and all the thing. And this is always confusing, even let's say if you're used to Smalltalk. And I like this tool because this is basically a plugin into Calypso, which is the Faro browser. And what it's doing, it's basically keeping the browsing history. So that means if you click on a method or if you click on a class, it shows this in a sidebar. Okay. And this means you can basically click back. I can share the link to it.
We have the translator ones. Is it something like that?
Yeah, maybe you can. I put the link into the chat, and there's a video on it which shows how it goes. Maybe someone can share the screen to see it.
Yeah. Oh, Hernan.
It's on GitHub.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to tell Hernan that I actually stole the promise framework from Squeak, and I'm extremely happy about it. And I think Hernan wrote it, or his group. I love it, and it's working just wonderful in VisualWorks for my remote interfaces. Wonderful. Okay, so
and maybe you can share the screen again and show it. It has a video on the page, and the nice thing is that it keeps that history. It collects that history data, so you can quickly switch back to the context that you had before. And if you say now you just click on a video and make it big positive. So you see when you browse the packages and classes and methods, you have this sidebar pinner. Every time you click on a method or something.
Okay, yeah, interesting.
And it keeps that. And the nice thing is you keep the browser open, and then if you click in the pinner, you can go back to the browser. So it switches back the context.
That would help me a lot, I think. Yes.
Yeah.
As you were describing this, I was thinking about, with things like Copilot these days, and you're talking out loud, they transcribe everything. So it's almost like, you've got the history here, but what were you intending to do when you did that? It's how to infer that as well, right? It's kind of interesting.
Right. Yes.
And it's not just limited to you, by the way, Christian, because sometimes, you know what, you get a distraction, there's a knock on the window or something, and you're like, damn it, what the hell was I trying to do?
I know, I was suffering from that before, yeah. So it's just get worse, that's all. Yeah, interesting idea, yeah, cool.
It prevents too many windows, and it helps you manage your
Yeah.
own memory in that.
Just a comment there as well. The code editing environment in Glamorous or GTools is much more single window, but it allows you to open methods that are referenced or sub methods or etc. very, very easily inline in place to see what they do and then close them.
Yes.
But it also allows you to work with multiple methods from the same class together very easily. Without having a clutter of windows. So that is actually a very nice low window interface.
I thought that for a long time, and in Toolkit then still tended to open lots of windows.
Yeah.
But now a few months ago, I started trying to use it really like I've seen Doru use it. Basically on a laptop where you don't have space for so many windows, and found out that if you really try to focus on having all the objects that you are interested in on the left hand side, and then if I need to have a long path towards what I'm looking at, then that's an indicator that I'm kind of missing a view or an object on the left hand side. And in JToolkit, the idea is that you make so many views and specific views on where you're interested in. And I find that that helps me have less need for memory and less need to keep windows open of things that I need to focus on. So it kind of helps me focus if I work like that.
Yeah,
but it took me a long time to get to there.
It takes a lot of getting used to, but it's actually very good. I had a question for Christian as well on the interface side. Obviously, a lot of things that come in and out these days are JSON or XML. I wondered if you've used NeoJSON or XML to transform between those formats and your values, and then use your values as the way to work with the objects.
Yeah, interesting question. So there are similar formats around, right? For example, 6, I think it wants to be like JSON, but similar. So you need a parser and a writer, right? So I'd love to use just the writer of Smalltalk. I mean, Smalltalk is just perfectly fine in writing Smalltalk code and also in parsing Smalltalk code. So I don't see any reason to use XML or JSON. It's very easy to read JSON into a value or to serialize the value into JSON or into XML or vice versa. And I did all this in different interfaces. It is not, it's a no-brainer almost. I mean, XML is a bit more involved, of course. But yeah, the structure is extremely the same. It's just the same. It's just different syntax, and I just cut out all the syntax business. I just use Smalltalk.
I agree with you 100% if you're working inside Smalltalk, but I'm thinking, you know, many of the things we talk to are coming in JSON or have to go out in JSON.
Yes.
So what you could do is transform from the JSON into your values structure, and then you've got the interfaces you've created to work with them. And then you could...
Yes, but I can do that ad hoc. So I don't need a framework or anything like that. I usually do that ad hoc, and it's 1 or 2 methods, and that's it. So it's very, very simple. Yes. But of course you need that. I agree, you need to have these interfaces, but they are very trivial. Yes.
Just an interesting side comment on what you just said, Christian, about the parsing of code and Smalltalk and such. If you remembered in 2018 when we did the porting of PDF Talk to Gemstone, that's because our in-house application was moving from a VisualWorks plus Gemstone split to a Gemstone only deployment. That communication between VisualWorks and Gemstone was exactly what you're describing as a string that would be evaluated on each side. That was originally XML that we would have to parse, package and parse, and then morphed into Smalltalk code, because why not? We already have a parser and evaluator, and it was so much easier. You're bang on. So it made so much more sense.
Yes, yes. Yeah, it's really pleasant. And also you use all the tools, right? The highlighter, the syntax completion. It's all there. It's yeah, ready to pick, ready to use. It's wonderful. Yeah, absolutely right.
A small warning to people that want to use the 6 stuff. It's very, very good, very fast, very good at handling complicated cyclic structures and so on. But remember to put your sunglasses on before you go to the web page.
Yeah, of course. And
The color choices that Masashi-san chose are dangerous to human life.
Okay, yeah, I understand. And that's a value saves you from that, because you cannot even think of serializing circular structures. There are no circular structures, period. So it's very super simple. Yeah. Yeah, circular structures and arbitrary network structures ruin everything simple, of course. Yeah. But this is not what the idea is. So values should be very, very simple. And I even refrain very much from adding more expressivity to, I don't know, having more typing in there or something like that. That's all too much. It needs to be understood by just plain, simple, super simple Smalltalk. Not too much magic around it. So yeah, that's the idea.
I have a question, Christian.
Yes.
You're saying that you don't think it should be smarter, but shouldn't, for the sake of better error checking and semantics, that the values should be divided into their domain that they're in, whether it's because a number for a person's age is different from a person's body temperature, or different from a percentage.
Of course.
And a person's name is different from the name of a city, even though they're both strings.
I think I understand your question, and my answer would be that this information comes from the context. If you model the age, you would have a variable age or a temperature variable or something like that. I don't think you should model it on the atomic level by assigning meaning to literals. So in the context, it all makes sense, and you use it always in the context. You never use it by itself. You would never know if the 3 is an age or a temperature. You cannot. Would that be a satisfying answer, or do you have a counter argument, please?
No, I would prefer it being an instance of a class that has the specific
yes,
limits.
you can do that, of course. Make an age value, which can only record ages. Perfect, easy. Or have a temperature value which records you Celsius and can even give you Fahrenheit. It's very nice.
Yes, and can handle conversions.
Yes,
when added to something of another scale.
But you would normally model this as a normal object subclass, right? You can just instead use a value subclass. You can add behavior. It's very easy. Conversions.
Right.
Instance creation stuff, or other stuff. It's not different from other objects. It's just that you just cannot change them. You create them, use them, and throw them away. That's it.
Yeah, just a comment on that, Alfonso. I hear your need for validation and conversion and all the rest. The problem is when you get to a large system with many domain concepts, you end up with thousands and thousands of classes for those kinds of variables. So what we've tended to do is abstract that to a measurement or an observation, a unit in which it's measured, and then a meaning. So you would say its age, it's 37, and it's measured in years, or whatever the case may be. So you just need those, few variables to represent it. And then you can define conversion methods between a variable type A and a variable type B. And you say from A to B, this is the conversion method. And from B to A, that's the conversion method. Yeah. So by having just a few very simple structures, you've got, the whole mechanism you need, really. You can also do the same with validation. You obviously just have a validation block as a value per type of variable that you want to keep. And that just gives you a true if it's valid, or gives you some meaningful message if it's not, like this should be between X and Y or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's understandable. What is the trade-off in having more instances of measurement versus having other classes that define these differences?
I think it's just simplicity and volume of code and volume of stuff to find, and a consistency of the way that things get dealt with. Otherwise, you find different developers are going to be defining different classes, and they define different interfaces and different methods for them, and the whole thing sort of unravels.
Also, you enter the meta level. You can describe things on a different level.
If you've got a generic mechanism for it, it becomes just data, and anybody can add a new one trivially. Yeah. In fact, we have in our particular system, we have end users add them. They don't, it's not a programming task. The end user adds these things, and they can define a new kind of metric, a new kind of measurement that they want, etc.
I think that's easy because mostly then when you have just values or data, then say you do not have any behavior, so the user can even define them.
Yes.
First thing. Second, there are some frameworks for Smalltalk like this Aqua and Aqua, which I just shared, and there's this there's also a units package, for instance, in Faro, that Marcus is caring about, where you have so you can say 1 meter, and then you can convert into centimeter, decimeter, and other. So so there are frameworks for that. And going back to your original discussion about the JSON, that you could map the value objects to JSON, there is a primary difference, in my opinion, because when you have a JSON file, for instance, and you say, for instance, in financial domain, you have a bank, and the bank has branches. What you see in the JSON is, in JSON file, you see, okay, the bank has a name, and then it has branches, which is then just a collection of branches, and then you have the attributes serialized of the branch, but you miss the information that it is a branch, that the type branch is there next to the class name. Yeah? So this is often, especially when you have nested objects in JSON, you do not have that type information anymore, compared to what you have, for instance, if you look at the classes that Christian just showed. So it will be tough to map. You for sure can serialize into JSON, but if you have to keep the class name.
Yeah.
Compared to regular JSON.
Yeah, there's also of course STON, which is Smalltalk superset of JSON, which is a bit more powerful.
Yep.
Exactly, therefore.
What's the one thing you don't like about values that you would change or refine? For myself, I see the problem I see is you're kind of flooding the object space with a gazillion new classes. But besides that, what do you see, or what are your comments on or warnings on do not use values for this purpose?
There's one little thing which is a bit annoying. I don't know how to change it, but when you have a value class and you have a lot of defaults that they flood your instant. Oh, come on. They flood your
protocol to create the method to create the objects, no?
So let's see, some kind of big object. No. So well, there are a lot of defaults, which is mostly its contents. So there's an optional. Oh yeah, maps are also defaults because they can be all nil and then it's empty map, or a sequence can be 0, but they're all kinds of optionals. So each optional doubles the size, the number of constructors, which is this stupid stuff. Well, it's not so stupid, but so here lots of, so the last 4 are all optional and they take 4 things. So let's look at the class. So you have 15 optionals and they look all very similar, very stupid. So just basically the optionals replaced by nils in all variations. So, and if you have like 10 or so, you really, yeah, then you will have 1024 constructors, which can be a challenge for the completer and for the, no, just the completer is probably the problem. I think the syntax highlighter is still doing fine with that. Yeah, so this is a bit annoying. And when you change things, when you do something, change things here, some methods are not resolved or replaced in a proper way. Sometimes you end up with 2 times the 2 versions of the initializer. You have to chase up on the senders of one of those, and then you have like 20 constructors which are used in the system, or you have values which are coming from outside the system where you even don't have any control which parameters are instantiated. Then you have a problem. You need to keep them all. And if you package such a system, you need to keep all these constructors in the system, which is a bit of a pain. Yeah. So it's code bloat. It's a bit of a code bloat. Yeah. Okay, is that a good enough answer, or do you need a more serious point? I'm not sure. I'm very happy with values, actually.
No, that was fine. I was just curious as to what you would change or what annoys you currently with the current implementation, besides what I saw as a problem.
Yeah. So code bloat is a bit of a problem, and yeah. Otherwise, it's no. I'm happy that they are so simple, that there's no extra layer of magic going on and stuff. So I have to check when I change things. I have to check and see if it's all okay. But it's still easy to check, and it's yeah, it's difficult to make blunders or something like that. Also, all these instances get immutable when they are created. So even if you accidentally try to override some variable, the system will tell you, no, that's the value, you shouldn't do that. So, but this is just a precaution. It's nothing the system relies on. So. Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Francisco.
Hello. Hi. Yeah, sir, I missed the initial part of the talk, but yes, thank you very much for all this presentation. I was going to ask if did you show some of the S units, or where you can actually compare the values, so big objects.
I'm not exactly sure what you mean. I showed the graphics, the graphic values, and
when you're preparing a test case or an S-unit method,
yeah,
that you can, the assertions that you can make over equality of objects that are, yeah, relatively big.
yes, of course. So values can be compared very nicely, but I still don't have a structure comparer, something like that. So if I want to find out which little detail of a value changes, I'm still at a loss. I can't do this. So I have to visually inspect the structures.
Okay.
But that would be a nice thing to do, of course. Yes. Or did you see that in my system and I forgot about it?
No, I can't remember, to be honest. I think that yeah. But yeah, so sorry, there's a little bit of background noise, so I'm going on mute.
I see. Okay, yeah.
What's the exact, you said you have a statistics in the image about normal classes and say value classes.
Yes.
And what is the exact criteria? The criteria is, okay, you have a, let's say, an instance creation method on the class side that creates the object, and you have setups or no setups at all.
Cannot follow you in a moment. Shall we have a look at that?
You said initially that you don't like these values to be changed.
Yes, of course. The
When
values
you have
can
them,
be changed.
and you said, okay, you use them a lot, and you have done statistics how many value classes you have compared to other classes. So
Yes.
what is the exact criteria for you when you say, okay, this is now a thing where the class the objects represent a value and compared to other regular classes?
So here I counted the object, the value classes. So about 10% of my classes are value classes.
Do they have a common superclass, or what is the criteria to?
Yes. The value classes.
The value superclass.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So very simple. The workspace is about here.
Because it's not an absolute must to
So I
be a
just take
subclass
all
of value.
the subclasses of value, group them by their namespace, and then print them out. That's all. So, and that was this list here. Yeah. So these are all the value classes.
What do you use when you serialize them into a method? Do you use this typical store string that you have in
No,
Smalltalk?
it's called as source, and then we'll print itself as source code.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Because typically there is this mechanism in Smalltalk to have this store string recreated.
Store string. Yeah, okay. So this is exactly the corresponding method to store string. So print string, of course, we know we cannot use. It's for the user. Store string is for storing things. But this is a really horrible thing because it usually just tells you instvar at 1 put blah blah and instvar at 2 puts something. You lose all the context and everything. But actually it does the same thing. So store on can also not do, well, you have to design it yourself if you want to do cycles. But since values don't have any cycles, it's a very generic thing to write it just out as a source code. So I just look at the
store string is only so ugly if you don't override it and adopt it.
Where's the launcher? There's the launcher. Okay, so that's it. as source 4. It's just like, so actually I have a value class, it's called a value printer, which is instantiated on the target class, and then it will print the value. And then it will use the printer to produce the source and emits the emitter class. Okay, the printer was the first thing I implemented, and actually I implemented it in values, which was a nice thing. And it's basically just making sure it always creates the right source to recreate the value itself. That's the most important responsibility. But then you can just print it like a star string into any stream and recreate it from there. You could do the same thing probably with a star string, but no, actually you can't, because it will not allow you to modify instance variables, and store on will try to do that. I'm talking bullshit, I think. Okay. I have a good excuse, brain surgery, sorry. Sorry, Thorsten, tell me again.
No, I said it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but you're right, it's like store on. It's, but it's here,
Yeah.
it's especially for values for this very simple hierarchical structures where you can really do things. The only little complication is arrays, where I generate the with syntax for little arrays, and order collection add yourself syntax for long collections. So that looks nicer with the with normally. So so array will print itself. So I don't know, it's a bit. So yeah, they can print the different kind of things. And it's very simple as well. I have an example, of course. No, it's just so simple, you cannot see anything really what's going on. No. But these are values, and therefore it's very easy to follow the flow if you can. No, I'm not sure if I'm really answering your question. Okay, no, but values need to print themselves so that they can be serialized into any text string and be read back.
Especially like that you can say model in Smalltalk anything, even things like the package change or class change, refactoring. No, I think this is one of the most powerful things.
Yeah.
Because look into other let's say dead languages who work with dead strings in code files.
Yes.
I mean, you can even have a change and have a transformation.
Yeah.
For instance, even in Thorough, there's a possibility, for instance, to do a deprecation, or and say, okay, for instance, replace that class with the other class, and it automatically transforms your code.
Yeah.
When you call a method. So this is really what I would call live, not only live coding, but also live transformations.
Yeah. So usually I work with values by having a domain, a specific use case, a specific something. I would try to write it down as a value, and then from then on kind of extract pieces of it, put into methods, and then the whole thing evolves into some kind of interface for this domain. It's a very satisfying work. Yeah. It's so hard to bring this kind of stuff across. I can't do this. But maybe you got an idea a little bit. Okay, I think I have to go anyway. I'm getting tired and maybe fall off dying here. No, I'm not.
Yeah, thank you very much, Christian, for the presentation. Very good comments, and yeah, we hope all the best.
Yeah, thank you for attending. I hope it was a little bit valuable.
Yes.
It was.
Thanks a lot.
So, and yeah, so we hope to organize something for next month. We're looking for presenters, and yeah, see you guys soon.
Okay, so thank you for, and see you later.
Yeah.
I'm
Thank
sure
you.
I'm around a little bit longer. Okay.
Yeah, of course.
Bye, guys.
Hope so, Christian.
Okay. All the best. Bye.